May 6, 2013, Cleveland, Ohio. 6 p.m. A woman calls 911. She speaks quickly. Her breathing is heavy. The dispatcher asks what happened. The answer: "I've been taken. I need help." Standard questions. When did it happen? Where are you now? Are you safe? The woman pauses, then says a phrase that freezes the dispatcher. "I was taken 10 years ago. My name is Amanda Berry." Amanda Berry. Everyone in Cleveland knew that name. On April 21, 2003, the day before her birthday, Amanda left work at Burger King. She called her mother, said she was getting a ride. She never came home. She vanished. Police searched. Her mother gave interviews. She pleaded for her daughter to be returned. A year passed, then 2, then 5. There was no trace. In 2006, Amanda's mother passed away. She never found out what happened to her daughter. 10 years later, everyone believed Amanda was gone. And now, this voice on the phone. The dispatcher asks for an address. The woman replies, 2207 Seymour Avenue. The Tremont neighborhood, the west side of the city. Ordinary houses, ordinary streets. The next question: who held her? A pause. Then quietly: Ariel Castro. He's a school bus driver. The dispatcher logs everything, passes it to the task force, continues the conversation. Other voices are audible in the background. The dispatcher asks, "Are you alone?" "No, Jocelyn is with me, and 2 other girls, Gina and Michelle." Amanda went missing. She is older now. Someone with her is also there. 2 other girls, Gina and Michelle. Their names are also recorded. Amanda continues, "He left, but I don't know when he'll be back. Please come faster." 2 patrol cars are already en route, 1.5 miles from the station. 5 minutes. The recording of the call continues. Every word is logged. All of it will become evidence. 8 minutes later, police are at the house, a 2-story building, white siding, a metal door, windows covered with thick curtains. From the street, an ordinary house, nothing suspicious. Officers Anthony Espada and Barbara Johnson go up to the porch. They knock. The door opens. A thin woman, long hair, dark circles under her eyes. Old, ill-fitting clothes. Behind her, someone else, a small figure with blonde hair. Officer Espada asks, "Are you Amanda Berry?" She nods. Tears stream down her face. She takes a step forward, comes out onto the porch, into the light. 2 more women emerge behind her. Both are emaciated. Both are terrified. Officers call for backup. The first questions are asked immediately, right there, on the porch. Amanda Berry, missing since April 2003. 10 years in that house. Gina De Jesus. Officer Johnson remembers the case. April 2004. Gina was walking home from school. She never made it home. Vanished. 9 years had passed. The third woman is silent the longest. Then she says, Michelle Knight. The name means nothing to the officers. Later, it will become clear why. Michelle went missing in August 2002. But her case was closed quickly. It was decided that she left voluntarily. Michelle spent 11 years in captivity, and no one looked for her. All 3 name one person, Ariel Castro. All 3 point to the house. He held them here, for years, on an ordinary street, in the middle of a residential area. Officer Espada contacts the station, relays the names, asks for a database check. The response is quick. Amanda Berry, wanted. Gina De Jesus, wanted. Both cases are active. They had been searched for all this time. Michelle Knight, case closed. Voluntary disappearance. No one knew she was there. Detectives and medics arrive at the house. All 3 are sent to the hospital. Jocelyn goes with Amanda. Police begin searching for Castro. His description is given to all patrols. Hispanic, middle-aged, medium height, wearing glasses, white pickup truck. Neighbors give their initial comments. An ordinary man, quiet, friendly, a school bus driver, played in a local band, sometimes hosted barbecues. No one suspected anything. No one saw anything. No one heard anything. The house looked normal. Castro behaved normally. 10 years of a double life. Not a single mistake. Until today. Around 8 p.m., Castro is apprehended near a restaurant on West 117th Street. He gets out of his pickup truck, walks towards the entrance. No rush, no looking back. 2 detectives approach from behind, call his name. Castro stops, turns around. There is no fear on his face, no surprise, only weariness. His rights are read to him. He is handcuffed. He does not resist. He remains silent. In the car, a detective asks, "Do you know why you've been arrested?" Castro looks out the window. A few seconds of silence. Then, "Yes, I know." Not another word. He asks for a lawyer. Refuses to give testimony. While Castro is being taken to the detention center, forensic experts begin inspecting the house. They photograph, collect evidence. What they find changes everything. The windows are boarded up with plywood from the inside. Heavy curtains hang over them. From the outside, everything looks normal. From the inside, they are walls. The doors to the bedrooms on the second floor are reinforced. Additional locks. They can only be locked from the outside, impossible to open from the inside. In one room, the scene spoke for itself. In the basement, there were troubling signs on the floor. Forensic experts take samples. Police work all night. The house becomes a crime scene. In the morning, the story reaches national attention. CNN, Fox News, all major channels send reporters. 3 women who were believed to be gone are alive. They spent years in captivity. They were located a few miles from their families, from the people who were searching for them. And all this time, their captor lived an ordinary life, worked, socialized, smiled at his neighbors. Now, the main questions remain to be answered. How did he abduct them? How did he hold them? Why did no one notice anything?
And what happened inside that house all those years? Seymour Avenue, an ordinary street on the west side of Cleveland. 2-story houses stand closely together, small yards, a typical working-class neighborhood where everyone knows each other. House number 2207 did not stand out. White siding, a neat porch. Everything was like the neighbors. The owner was Ariel Castro. To the residents of the street, he was just Al, a neighbor with whom you could exchange a few words on the porch. Police gathered the first testimonies from neighbors immediately, that same night, while forensic experts were working in the house. Juan Perez, who lives 3 houses down, had known Castro for 20 years. An ordinary guy, always said hello, sometimes helped with the car, nothing strange. Elisa Castillo, from the house opposite. He often sat on the porch, played the guitar. We talked about the weather, the news, ordinary conversations. Tito Denny, the neighbor on the right, a shared wall between the houses. I never heard anything. No screams, no noise. The wall is thin. I can hear the TV from other neighbors, but from Al, silence. Complete silence for years. Castro worked as a school bus driver for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, 22 years of experience, an impeccable reputation, not a single complaint. Every morning at 6 o'clock, he would leave the house, go to work, drop off students, return in the evening. Colleagues described him the same way, quiet, responsible. Always on time. Parents entrusted their children to him. But work was not the only thing that made Castro visible. He played bass in a local band called Grupo Juego, Latin American music. They performed at neighborhood parties, weddings, private events. Fernando Cobo, the band's guitarist. Al was part of the team, came to every rehearsal. We discussed music, joked, drank beer. A normal guy. Performances were public. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of people. Castro stood on stage, smiled, was in plain sight. He didn't hide, didn't avoid people. On the contrary, he actively participated in the life of the neighborhood. Neighbors recall backyard barbecues. Several times a year, Castro invited residents of the street, grilled meat, offered beer. Nancy Ruiz, the neighbor on the left. I came to these barbecues. He was hospitable. We stood in his yard, talked, 10 meters from that house, and no one knew. Police study photographs from these events. People smiling, Castro in the center. Behind him, the house, closed windows, and inside, 3 women whose condition was alarming. Even his family suspected nothing. Castro had 4 adult children from a previous marriage. They regularly visited their father, came to the house, sat in the living room. Castro did not let them up to the second floor. He said it was a mess up there. No one insisted. One of his daughters would later say, I was in that house dozens of times, and all that time those women were there.
I still can't comprehend it. In the morning, work. In the afternoon, school children. In the evening, home. Sometimes rehearsals. Sometimes barbecues. All predictable. All regular. Castro bought groceries at regular supermarkets. A lot of groceries. The owner of the corner store, he came once a week, bought a lot of food. I thought he had a large family. Another detail, the house windows. All closed. Always. Thick curtains. Neighbors noticed, but didn't attach importance. Everyone has their own habits. No one asked unnecessary questions. No one meddled in other people's lives. It was a quiet neighborhood where privacy was respected, and Castro took advantage of this. He created the image of a normal person, maintained it, did not allow cracks. For years, he came home after work, closed the door, and became a different person, one whom the neighbors did not know, one whom his colleagues did not see. Now the investigation was to find out how this double life began, how Castro transformed from an ordinary Cleveland resident into a person who held 3 women captive for over 10 years. It all started not on May 6, 2013. It all started 11 years earlier. Back then, no one knew these disappearances were connected. 3 different cases, 3 different years, different circumstances. The first was Michelle Knight, August 23, 2002. Michelle was a young woman. She lived alone in Cleveland, rents a room, works odd jobs. Life hasn't gone well. Family problems, legal problems.
Minor infractions. Nothing serious. That day, Michelle goes to a meeting at social services, a case regarding temporary custody of her son. She needs to get there. It's important. She leaves her house, walks down the street. No one sees her again. Michelle's cousin calls the police 2 days later, says Michelle is missing, not coming home, not answering calls. Police open a case. They interview acquaintances, check her last movements. A theory quickly forms. Michelle was in conflict with her family. There were debts. There were problems. The detective handling the case concludes she left voluntarily, perhaps to another city, perhaps with someone she knew. The case is reclassified as a voluntary disappearance. Active searches stop after a few months. Michelle remains in the missing persons database, but no one actively looks for her anymore. Her family doesn't insist. Relationships were complicated. Many genuinely thought she had just left. A year passed. No trace, no calls. Michelle had simply vanished. April 21, 2003. Amanda Berry. She worked at Burger King after school. Wants to save up for a car. A typical high school student with typical plans. April 7th, Monday. Amanda's shift ends at 7:30 in the evening. She calls her mother. Says a colleague will give her a ride. Her mother says fine, I'll wait at home. Amanda leaves the restaurant, heads towards the bus stop on the corner of West 100th and Lorraine Avenue. The distance to her home is 3 miles.
10 minutes by car. She doesn't arrive home. Her mother, Luana Miller, starts calling an hour later. Amanda's phone doesn't answer. She calls the police at 10 in the evening. Police react immediately. A minor, a responsible girl, never went missing before, never ran away, no reason to leave home. Searches begin that same night. They comb the neighborhood, interview colleagues from Burger King, check surveillance cameras. There are few in 2003, but those that exist are checked. Recordings show Amanda leaving the restaurant, walking down the street, turning a corner. There are no more cameras beyond that. Police officially declare her missing. The media picks up the story. Luana Miller gives interviews on all channels. Flyers appear all over the city, a reward for information. Dozens of people call, say they saw Amanda, on a bus, in a store, in another neighborhood. Police check every lead. They find nothing. Months pass. No trace. The case remains open, but hope diminishes. In 2006, Luana Miller passed away. Her heart couldn't take it, doctors say. Stress. 3 years she lived in uncertainty. She never learned what happened to her daughter. April 2, 2004. Gina DeJesus. She attended Wilbur Wright Middle School, lives with her parents and brothers on the west side of Cleveland. A typical schoolgirl. After classes, Gina walks home. Her usual route, 2 miles. She walks it every day. At the corner of Lorraine Avenue and West 108th Street, a friend walks with her. They talk.
They laugh. The friend turns towards her own house. They say goodbye. Gina walks on alone. No one sees her again. Her parents start to worry. By 6 in the evening, Gina was supposed to be home by 3. 3 hours have passed. Her phone doesn't answer. Her father, Felix de Jesus, gets in his car,
drives his daughter's route, asks passersby. No one saw anything. At 7 in the evening, a call to the police. A schoolgirl is missing, did not return home after school. Police mobilize the entire district. Dozens of officers, volunteers, neighbors. They comb every street, every yard, every alley. Nothing. The media is back on the scene. Gina's story becomes the main news in Cleveland. Her parents appeal to the public. They beg for their daughter to be returned. They offer a reward. Thousands of people join the search. They check abandoned buildings, vacant lots, parks. They check everything. The detective handling the case notices a coincidence. Amanda Berry went missing a year ago, in the same area, under similar circumstances. Both were walking home. Both vanished without a trace. He pulls Amanda's case, compares details, checks if there's a connection. The disappearance locations are a mile apart. Both disappeared in April, exactly 1 year apart. Perhaps it's a coincidence, perhaps not. Police begin to consider the theory of a serial abductor. They check databases, look for similar cases, review registered criminals in the area. They find nothing.
Michelle Knight's case is not linked to these disappearances. Her case is closed. She is listed as having left voluntarily. No one thinks to re-examine that theory. Meanwhile, all three women are in one place, in the house on Seymour Avenue, a few miles from their disappearance locations, near their families, near the police stations where investigations are ongoing. But no one knows about it. Years pass, cases remain open, families live without answers, and Ariel Castro continues his ordinary life. Cleveland police launched a large-scale operation, 2 missing persons cases, Amanda Berry and Gina DeJesus. They created a special task force. Detectives worked around the clock. They checked every lead, interviewed everyone who last saw the girls, reviewed camera footage dozens of times, checked registered criminals within a 5-mile radius. Nothing. The families organized their own searches, hundreds of volunteers every weekend. They handed out flyers, posted posters. Gina's mother, Nancy Ruiz, gave interviews every week. Her father organized marches through the neighborhood. He kept the media's attention. And this is where Ariel Castro appears. May 2004, a month after Gina's disappearance. Castro comes to one of the marches, hands out flyers, talks to people, looks concerned. The reason is simple. His daughter Arlena attended the same school as Gina. They were friends. Castro knew the DeJesus family personally. Now he stands next to Gina's mother, offers words of support.
Promises to help with the search. Nancy Ruiz later recalls, "He came up to me, said his daughter was worried, that he wanted to help. He seemed sincere." Castro takes the flyers, says he'll post them around the neighborhood, tell his colleagues at work, and he actually does it. Flyers with Gina's photo appear on Seymour Avenue. Police question everyone who knew Gina, including Castro. Standard procedure. A detective comes to his house, asks questions. When was the last time he saw Gina? Did he know anything about her disappearance? Castro answers calmly, "Last saw her a couple of weeks ago. Gina came to his daughter's house. They did homework. Nothing unusual." A question about the day of the disappearance. Where was he on April 2nd after 3 p.m.? His answer, "At work, dropping off school children. His shift ended at 6. Then home, watch TV." The detective checks. Castro was indeed on his route. The schedule is confirmed. The alibi isn't airtight, but there are no suspicions. Just the ordinary father of a missing girl's friend, worried, wants to help. The detective was not in the house. There was no reason, no warrant. Castro was not a suspect, just a witness. If he had gone up to the 2nd floor, if he had looked into the closed rooms, it would have ended there, in 2004. But it didn't happen. Months pass. The active phase slows down. No leads. The media switches to other news. The families don't give up. Nancy Ruiz organizes annual marches every April 2nd.
Hundreds of people on the streets. Castro sometimes appears at the marches, stands in the crowd, holds a flyer. In 2007, he is shown on the news. A reporter interviews participants, approaches Castro. Castro says to the camera, "My daughter went to school with Gina. It's a terrible tragedy. I hope she's found. A family shouldn't live in uncertainty." This recording would be shown after his arrest. Everyone would see him talk about the tragedy. While Gina was in his house, her situation speaking for itself. An anonymous call. Someone saw Amanda in the Seymour Avenue area. She was with a man, looked scared. Police check the area. They interview residents. No one confirms anything. After the liberation, this call would be re-examined. The call was made from a payphone on West 25th Street, 3 blocks from Castro's house. Who called, they wouldn't find out. Years turned into routine. Cases remained open. Families waited. Castro lived a double life. Worked, played music, appeared at marches.
He didn't just avoid attention. He created the image of a trustworthy person, someone who empathizes, someone who helps. And it worked. For years, no one suspected anything. June 2004, 2 months after Gina's disappearance, a man calls the police, says he saw something important on the day Gina disappeared. The witness is Jose Martinez, lives in the area. On April 2nd, around 4 in the afternoon, he was walking on Lorraine Avenue. He saw a white pickup truck. It stopped at the curb.
In the passenger seat sat a young Hispanic woman, dark hair, school uniform. Behind the wheel, a man, Hispanic, middle-aged, wearing glasses. Martinez didn't think much of it then. He assumed a father was picking up his daughter from school. But then he saw posters with Gina's photo. He recognized the face, that same girl from the pickup truck. Detective Mark Diaz takes his testimony, asks for the man to be described in as much detail as possible. Hispanic, around middle-aged, medium height, stocky build, dark hair with some gray, thin-rimmed glasses, a white pickup truck, an old model. An artist is called. A composite sketch is made. Martinez adjusts the details: face shape, eye shape, hair. The composite sketch is ready. It's shown to Gina's family, shown to classmates, shown to teachers. No one recognizes him. Police circulate the composite sketch, publish it in newspapers, show it on local television, ask everyone who recognizes this person to come forward. Dozens of people call, give names, provide addresses. Every lead is checked. Detective Diaz compiles a list: Hispanic men of a certain age, owners of white pickup trucks, residing on the west side of Cleveland. The list is long, more than 40 people. They begin checking them one by one, summon them for questioning, ask about April 2nd, where they were, what they were doing, if they have an alibi. The first is Roberto Garcia, works in construction, white Ford pickup, 1998 model, wears glasses.
The questioning lasts an hour. Where were you on April 2 after 3 p.m.? Garcia says, at work, a site on the east side of the city, 10 miles from Gina's disappearance location. They check. The foreman confirms. The timesheet shows Garcia was on site until 6 in the evening. He could not have been on Lorraine Avenue at 4. Alibi is solid. They cross him off. The second is Miguel Sanchez, truck driver, white Chevrolet pickup, wears glasses. Where were you on April 2nd? Sanchez says, on a route, driving to Pittsburgh. Left in the morning, returned late in the evening. They check the GPS tracker on the truck. Confirmed. He was on the highway all day, nowhere near Cleveland. They cross him off. Weeks pass this way. They check one after another. Everyone either has an alibi or the description doesn't match upon a personal meeting. The list shortens. Those they can't find remain, or those with weak alibis. Witness Martinez is called several times, shown photos of the men who were checked, asked to identify. Martinez looks, shakes his head. No, not him, not the one. A month passes. The lead stalls. The composite sketch yielded no result. There are no real suspects. Detective Diaz reviews the case, analyzes Martinez's testimony, checks if there's any mistake. Maybe the witness got the day wrong. Maybe he didn't see Gina. But Martinez is confident. He saw the girl exactly on April 2nd, at that exact time. He remembered because it was his birthday that day.
He was walking home from work. The time matches. Police return to the list of white pickup truck owners. They check if anyone was missed. Ariel Castro's name is there. Page 14. Hispanic. White Ford pickup, 1997 model. Wears glasses. Matches the description. But next to the name there's a note. Previously questioned. Father of victim's friend. Participates in searches. Alibi partially confirmed. The detective looks at this entry. Castro was checked in the first few days. He didn't raise suspicion. He helped the family, handed out flyers. The decision is made quickly. Castro is crossed off the list of suspects, not called for a repeat interrogation. His photo is not shown to witness Martinez. His reputation acted as a shield. No one could believe that a person who helped search for Gina could be involved in her disappearance. It seemed absurd. What would be the point of participating in searches if you are guilty? Why draw attention to yourself? Why take the risk? The logic was understandable, but a criminal's logic works differently. The theory involving the white pickup truck gradually recedes into the background. Other leads appear, other witnesses, other theories. Detective Diaz continues to work on the case, but the composite sketch no longer seems as important. Too general a description, too many people fit. Years later, after Castro's arrest, Detective Diaz would see his photograph, compare it to the composite sketch from 2004. The resemblance would be obvious. He would pull up the old materials, find the list of suspects, find Castro's name on page 14, see the note about his reputation. In an interview, he would say, "We were so close. He was on the list, we questioned him, but we didn't check completely, didn't show him to the witness, didn't thoroughly recheck his alibi. His reputation worked against us." This was one of those moments when the investigation could have gone a different way. One additional interrogation, one face-to-face confrontation with a witness, and it all could have ended in 2004. But it didn't happen. Castro remained unsuspected, continued his life, continued to hold 3 women captive for 9 more years. While the police were checking leads and questioning witnesses, a completely different reality existed behind the boarded-up windows of the house on Seymour Avenue. After the captives' liberation, investigators collected testimonies for weeks. Each woman told her story. Gradually, a picture emerged of what had been happening all those years. Michelle Knight spent the longest in captivity, 11 years. When she was taken in August 2002, she was alone in the house for almost a year, until April 2003 when Amanda appeared. Castro kept them in different rooms on the second floor, each in a separate bedroom, doors reinforced, locks only on the outside, windows boarded up with plywood. Inside the rooms, minimal, a mattress on the floor, a bucket for waste, sometimes a radio. Castro allowed them to listen to music. He controlled what they listened to. The means of confinement spoke for themselves. The setup allowed enough movement to reach the opposite corner of the room, but not enough to reach the door or window. Castro varied his methods of confinement, sometimes one way, sometimes another. It depended on his mood, on how much he trusted them at that moment. Food was brought irregularly, sometimes once a day, sometimes once every 2 days. Fast food most often, burgers, French fries, sometimes groceries from the supermarket. Contact between the captives was minimal. Castro kept them isolated from each other. For the first few years, they didn't even know anyone else was in the house. Michelle only learned about Amanda a few months after she was taken. She heard a voice through the wall. She realized she wasn't alone. Gina appeared in April 2004, the 3rd captive. She was the youngest of all. Castro built a system of control through fear and manipulation. He told them that no one was looking for them, that their families had forgotten them, that the police had closed their cases. He told Amanda that her mother had passed away from grief. This was true. Luana Miller had indeed passed in 2006. Castro showed Amanda a newspaper clipping, an obituary, the date, a photograph. He told Gina that her family had moved to another city, that they no longer lived in Cleveland, that they had forgotten about her. He told Michelle that no one had looked for her at all, that her case had been closed after a month, that everyone had decided she had left voluntarily. This was also true. The psychological pressure worked. The women lost hope. They stopped believing in rescue. Years passed. Nothing changed. Castro would sometimes turn on the television for them. He controlled what they watched. He didn't allow news. Only entertainment channels, TV series, music shows. But once, Amanda saw a segment about herself, the anniversary of her disappearance, a report from the place where she was last seen, interviews with relatives. Castro was furious. He punished her. He didn't bring food for several days. He took away the television for a month. Gina also once saw a segment about a memorial march. She recognized her mother on the screen. She saw posters with her photo. She understood they were looking for her. She hadn't been forgotten. This gave them hope, but at the same time, it intensified their despair. They saw that they were being searched for, but they couldn't signal. They couldn't scream. The windows were boarded up. The doors were locked. Castro established strict rules. When he was in the house, complete silence, not a sound, no footsteps, no talking among themselves if he allowed them to meet. If guests came to him, his children, friends, neighbors, the captives had to sit quietly upstairs, their situation speaking for itself. Dozens of times people were in that house.
On the first floor, laughing, talking, eating, and a few meters above them sat 3 women, their state alarming, silent, hoping that someone would hear, someone would guess. But no one heard, no one guessed. Castro threatened them. He said that if anyone tried to scream, he would harm them all. He said there were weapons in the house, that he wasn't afraid to use them. The women believed him. They had no choice. The risk was too great. The system worked for years. Complete isolation, psychological suppression, physical control. Everything was designed to eliminate any possibility of escape. And this system explained the main question that everyone asked after the liberation. Why didn't they try to escape? Why didn't they scream? Why didn't they attract attention? The answer was simple. They tried, especially in the early years. But every attempt ended in punishment. Every scream, with increased control. Every step towards freedom resulted in even greater confinement. Over time, they learned to survive, to adapt, to obey the rules, because that was the only way to stay alive. Not only the women inside the house learned to survive. Castro also survived outside. He maintained his image. But there are no perfect masks. There are always cracks. After the arrest, neighbors began to recall details. Things they hadn't noticed before. Things that had seemed like mere quirks of character. Elisa Castillo, the neighbor across the street, recalls. The windows were always closed.
Always. In winter, it's understandable. Everyone closes them. But in summer, in the heat, when everyone throws them open, his were tightly shut. I thought maybe he has good air conditioning, or just likes darkness. Tito Denny, the neighbor on the right. I offered to help with repairs a few times. I saw the downspout was leaking. I said, "Al, let me fix it." He refused, said he'd do it himself, but he never did. I thought he just wasn't getting around to it. No one tried to enter the house without an invitation. That would have been improper. Everyone has their own boundaries, their own rules. Nancy Ruiz, who came to the barbecues. We were always in the yard. He brought out food, drinks, but he didn't invite us inside. I thought maybe he's embarrassed by the mess. A man lives alone. Who knows? Castro's children came regularly, but even for them, access was restricted. The first floor, yes. Living room, kitchen, bathroom. The second floor, closed. His daughter Angie recalls. Dad said it was a mess upstairs, that he had Heimbeer for months, that he was ashamed to show it. We didn't insist. Why meddle if a person doesn't want to? The owner of the corner grocery store noticed another peculiarity. Maria Gonzalez. He always bought a lot, several loaves of bread, 5 or 6 packs of chips, lots of ready-made food. I thought he might be stocking up for the week or inviting guests often. 4 people in the house, including Castro. A lot of food was needed.
But no one counted how much he bought. No one connected the facts. There were other moments too, more alarming ones, but they were also ignored. January 2006. A neighbor calls the police, complains about loud music from Castro's house, late evening. The music is blaring, disturbing sleep. A patrol car arrives, knocks on the door. Castro opens it. The officer asks him to turn it down. Castro apologizes, turns it down. The patrol leaves. The officer doesn't enter the house, sees nothing suspicious. An ordinary noise complaint. Hundreds of them a night. August 2008. Another call. Anonymous this time. Someone reports strange sounds from the house on Seymour Avenue. Sounds like screams. A patrol car arrives again. Different officers. They knock. Castro doesn't open immediately. About 3 minutes pass. The officer asks if everything is all right, mentions the report of screams. Castro answers calmly, says he was watching a horror movie. It was loud. Apologizes. The officer peeks into the hallway through the slightly open door, sees an ordinary house. The television is on. There is indeed a horror movie on the screen. He asks to come inside to check. Castro refuses, says everything is fine, just a movie, doesn't want strangers in his house. The officer cannot insist. No warrant, no clear threat, no reason. He records the call as a false alarm, leaves. On the second floor at that moment, 3 women sit in silence, their condition speaking for itself.
They hear the conversation downstairs. They hear the policeman's voice. They cannot scream. Castro knew what to do.
He had prepared for such situations. He specifically played music when he wanted to drown out sounds from the upper floor. The television was always loud, another detail that neighbors recalled. Castro often left home, sometimes for several days. He said he was visiting relatives or on vacation, but the pickup truck remained in place, parked at the house. Juan Perez noticed, "The car's there, but he's not. I thought maybe someone picks him up or he takes a bus somewhere." In reality, Castro was inside. He just didn't go out. For several days in a row, he spent time with the captives, controlled them, made sure no one tried to escape. All these details existed separately: closed windows for one neighbor, a lot of food for another, strange sounds for a third. Each detail on its own was easily explained, but if you put them together, if you look at the whole picture, then a pattern emerges, then a system is visible. Only no one put them together. No one looked at the whole picture. People live their own lives, with their own problems. Other people's oddities don't concern them. Castro understood this, used it. He knew that people don't pay attention, that everyone is busy with themselves, that no one will dig deeper. The double life worked because society allowed it to work. It didn't ask unnecessary questions. It didn't meddle in other people's affairs.
It respected privacy, and this politeness, this respect for boundaries, cost 3 women 10 years of their lives. For 10 years, the system worked without fail. Not a single serious mistake, not a single oversight. Castro controlled every detail. He planned every step. May 6, 2013, Monday, an ordinary day. Castro leaves the house around 5 in the evening. He tells the captives he's going to his brother's. He'll be back late. He behaves as always, calmly, confidently. Amanda sits in her room on the 2nd floor. Jocelyn is with her. They hear the front door slam downstairs. The pickup truck engine starts. Castro has left. An ordinary situation. It had happened dozens of times. Amanda knows the door to her room is locked. The window is boarded up. There's no way out. She just has to wait. She stands up, goes to the door, checks the handle out of habit. Expects nothing, just an automatic movement. The handle turns. Amanda freezes. The door is not locked. Castro forgot. For the first time in 10 years, he forgot to lock it. She carefully pushes the door. It opens. The corridor is empty. Silence. Castro has definitely left. The sound of the engine faded into the distance. Amanda walks into the corridor. Her heart pounds so loudly she hears it in her ears. For 10 years she hadn't been here alone, without confinement, without locks. She descends the stairs. Every step creaks. Every sound seems deafening. But the house is empty. 1st floor. Hallway. The front door is 3 meters away. Amanda approaches, tries to open it. Locked. A metal door. Heavy. Several locks. The keys are with Castro. But there's a small opening at the bottom of the door. Something like ventilation. Small. Maybe 30 centimeters wide. Amanda kneels. Starts breaking the grate. With her hands, her nails. The metal doesn't budge. She pulls with all her might. Jocelyn stands nearby, watches, silent. She doesn't understand what's happening. All her life has been in this house. She remembers nothing else. Amanda continues. The grate gives a little. Another tug. Another. The grate tears off. Now the opening is open. Small, but enough to stick a hand through. Enough to scream. Amanda starts banging on the door, from inside. She screams, "Help! Someone! Help!" Outside, it's quiet. The street is empty. 5 in the evening, a weekday. Most people are at work. She screams louder, hits the door harder. Her voice cracks, her hands hurt, but she doesn't stop. A few minutes later, she hears footsteps outside. Someone is walking on the sidewalk. Charles Ramsey is returning home from work. He lives across the street from Castro. Hears screams, stops, listens. A woman's voice, coming from Castro's house. The house that is always quiet, always closed. Ramsey approaches the door. "Hey, what's going on in there?" Amanda screams through the opening. "I'm Amanda Berry. I've been taken. Help me get out." Ramsey doesn't understand immediately. Amanda Berry. That name is familiar. Heard it somewhere. Posters in the neighborhood. Years ago. Many years ago. He bends down, looks into the opening, sees a woman, thin, frightened. A hand reaches out. Ramsey tries to open the door from outside. He can't. The locks hold tight. "We need to kick the door down," he says. Together they start. Amanda from inside, Ramsey from outside. They kick. They push. The door is massive, metal. It doesn't budge. Ramsey pushes harder. The frame starts to crack. Another hit. Another. The door is slightly ajar. A gap the width of a hand. Enough.
Amanda squeezes through. Jocelyn follows. They step onto the porch, into the light, into freedom. Ramsey looks at them. He can't believe his eyes. It really is her, Amanda Berry, missing 10 years ago. "Call 911, Amanda says. Her voice trembles. There are 2 more inside, Gina and Michelle. They're still there. Ramsey gets his phone, dials the number, hands the phone to Amanda. She takes the phone. For the first time in 10 years, she speaks to the outside world. For the first time, she asks for help out loud. The dispatcher answers. Amanda starts speaking, quickly, confusedly. Her words are jumbled, but the meaning is clear. "My name is Amanda Berry. I was taken 10 years ago. I'm on Seymour Avenue, 2207. Please come, faster." The recording of this call would become evidence. It would be played in court, shown on the news. The whole world would hear these words, but now it's just a cry for help.
A cry that had been awaited for 10 years. Police are already on their way. 8 minutes until arrival. Amanda stands on the porch, holds Jocelyn's hand, looks at the street, at the houses, at the people who are starting to come out. She is free. For the first time in 10 years, she stands outside, without confinement, without locks, without fear. One mistake by Castro, one unlocked lock, and the entire system collapsed. The 911 call recording lasts 3 minutes 48 seconds. After Castro's arrest, this recording was listened to hundreds of times by forensic experts, psychologists, lawyers, the judge. Every word had meaning, every pause, every intonation. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, a forensic psychologist brought into the case, analyzed the recording. Her report became part of the court materials. The first seconds of the call, Amanda speaks quickly. Her breathing is rapid. Her voice is high-pitched. Classic signs of acute stress. The dispatcher asks for the address. Amanda answers clearly. 2207 Seymour Avenue. No hesitations. She knows the address by heart. For 10 years, she had memorized every detail. The next question, what is the problem? The answer, I was taken 10 years ago. Loftus notes in her report, the victim uses a precise temporal reference. She does not say a long time ago or many years ago. She says specifically 10 years. This indicates the preservation of cognitive functions and a clear understanding of the chronology of events. The dispatcher asks her name. Amanda gives her full name, Amanda Berry. Not Amanda, not just a name, the full name. She wants to be identified accurately. A key moment in the recording, when the dispatcher asks where she is now. Amanda replies, "I'm free now." 3 words, free now. Not I left the house, not I'm on the street. Specifically, free. The psychologist notes, the choice of words is not accidental. Freedom is the antithesis of captivity. The victim clearly distinguishes between 2 states, captivity and freedom. The use of the word now emphasizes that the liberation occurred literally minutes ago. Then Amanda names the person who held her, without hesitation, without fear in her voice, Ariel Castro. The dispatcher asks again, clarifies the spelling. Amanda repeats it, spells it out, Ariel. She wants it recorded correctly. Then crucial information. Asked if she is alone, Amanda replies, Jocelyn is with me, and 2 other girls inside. Forensic expert Robert Harris, an audio analysis specialist, notes an important detail. In the background of the recording, crying can be heard, approximately from the 30th second. The crying is not hysterical. It is quiet, frightened. This confirms the presence of whom Amanda is speaking about. When Amanda mentions the 2 other women, the dispatcher asks for clarification. Who are they?
Gina De Jesus and Michelle Knight. 2 names, 2 open cases, 2 investigations that had lasted for years. Expert Loftus notes, the victim demonstrates clarity of thought in a critical situation. She names not only her own name, but also the names of the other captives. She provides maximum information in minimal time. This suggests that she had prepared for this moment. She knew what to say if a chance arose. In the middle of the conversation, Amanda is heard telling someone nearby, "Quiet, it's okay." She is addressing Jocelyn, calming her. Even in a state of shock, she is controlling the situation. The dispatcher asks, is there an immediate threat right now? Is Castro nearby? Amanda replies, he left, but I don't know when he'll be back. Fear in her voice intensifies on the word back. The expert notes, the pitch of her voice rises, her speech tempo accelerates. The victim fears that the person who held her could appear at any moment. This increases the urgency of the situation. Towards the end of the call, Amanda repeats several times, "Please come faster." Each time the intonation changes, first a request, then a plea, then almost a demand. Psychologist Loftus, the victim is in a state of hypervigilance. She understands that time is critical. Every second counts. This explains the increasing insistence in her requests for help. The call recording became key evidence, not just because it recorded the fact of liberation,
but because it showed the scale of the crime. 3 names: Amanda, Gina, Michelle. 3 missing women. 3 active investigations. All of them were in one place, all these years. Prosecutor Timothy McGinty would later say, "This call gave us everything. The names of the victims."
Testimony that after 10 years in captivity, Amanda Berry retained mental clarity, retained her will, retained the ability to fight. One mistake by Castro led to one call. One call led to the collapse of the entire system. 2 hours after the captives were freed, detectives located Ariel Castro. He was arrested near a restaurant on West 117th Street, calm, without resistance. But he was not the only one arrested. That same night, police detained 2 more, Pedro Castro and O'Neill Castro, Ariel's brothers. Both lived in Cleveland. Both had access to the house on Seymour Avenue. On the morning of May 7, the media recorded 3 Castro brothers arrested on suspicion of kidnapping. The news spread across the country in minutes. CNN aired an emergency report. 3 brothers arrested for holding women captive for over 10 years. The headline appeared on all major channels.
The theory of a group crime seemed logical. 3 women, 10 years. How could one man control all of it for so long? Perhaps there was help. Perhaps it was an organized group. Police did not comment on the details. They only stated the facts. 3 had been detained. An investigation was underway. Details would follow. Pedro Castro, an older man, worked in a warehouse, lived on the east side of the city, married, 2 adult sons. O'Neill Castro, a middle-aged man, worked as a mechanic, lived separately, divorced, 3 children. Both knew about their brother's house. Both had been there, not often, but regularly. Family visits, birthdays, holidays. Interrogations began immediately. Different rooms, different detectives, standard tactic, isolate suspects, check testimonies separately. Pedro was interrogated by Detective Andrew Hayden. How many times had he been to his brother's house? When was the last time? Had he seen anything suspicious? Pedro answered honestly. He had been to the house 3 months ago, his nephew's birthday. They sat in the living room, ate pizza, watched football. Nothing strange. The detective asked, had he gone upstairs? Pedro shook his head. No. Ariel didn't let anyone upstairs. He said there was renovation, that it was a mess. No one insisted. Had he seen the women? Had he heard voices? Had he noticed anything unusual? Pedro again denied it. He hadn't seen anything, hadn't heard anything, had no idea what was happening there.
The detective changed tactics, asked about his brother's character, what kind of person he was. Were there any strange behaviors? Pedro spoke cautiously. Ariel had always been withdrawn, didn't share personal matters, lived alone after his divorce, rarely invited people over, but nothing criminal. He worked, raised his children, a normal brother. O'Neill was interrogated in parallel, a different detective, the same questions. O'Neill gave similar answers. He had been to his brother's house a few times in recent years, not often, holidays mostly, never on the second floor, knew nothing. Detectives checked phone records, correspondence, financial transactions. They looked for connections. They looked for evidence of a conspiracy. They found nothing. Pedro and O'Neill lived their own lives, worked, socialized with their families, no joint trips with Ariel, no suspicious purchases, no traces of involvement. A polygraph was offered to both, voluntarily. Both agreed. The questions were standard. Did you know about the captives in your brother's house? Did you help your brother hold the women? Were you involved in the abductions? To all questions, no. The polygraph showed they were telling the truth. The women were questioned separately. They were shown photographs of Pedro and O'Neill. Asked, had they seen them? Did they know these people? All 3 answer the same way. No, never seen them. Only Ariel. Only him. Amanda added, sometimes I heard voices downstairs when he had guests.
But I only saw him. He was alone.
3 days later, the investigation concluded. Pedro and O'Neill were not involved. They didn't know, didn't help, didn't participate. On May 9th, they were released, without charges. Official police statement. After thorough review, it has been determined that brothers Pedro and Ariel Castro are not involved in the crimes. The arrest was a necessary measure as part of the investigation. The media changed its headlines. Only one suspect, Ariel Castro, acted alone. This changed the perception of the case. A group crime, that's one thing. An organized group, division of roles, mutual control. But one person controlled 3 women for 10 years. One built the system. One maintained the double life. Psychologists began to re-examine the profile. Dr. Michael Stone, an expert in criminal psychology. The ability of one person to hold 3 captives for so long indicates an exceptional degree of control and planning. This is not an impulsive crime. This is a system built over years. The fact of a solitary act complicated the picture. Castro was not part of a group. He had no accomplices. Everything he did himself. He planned himself, controlled himself, hid himself. This made the crime even more monstrous, because it showed he was capable of all this, alone, without help, without support. After the arrest, detectives began to dig deeper. Castro's biography, his past, his history before the abductions. They looked for patterns.
They looked for warning signs, and they found them. Ariel Castro was married from 1980 to 1996. His wife, Grimilda Figueroa. 16 years together, 4 children, Arlena, Angie, Anthony, and Emily. After Castro's arrest, journalists found Grimilda. She lives separately, rarely gives interviews, but now she agrees to speak. Her story changes the picture. It shows that the crimes on Seymour Avenue were not the first, just the first ones to be uncovered. Grimilda says, "He treated me harshly, regularly, for years. It started a year after we got married, rarely at first, then more often." She describes his system of control. Castro forbade her from leaving the house without permission. He checked her phone calls, monitored her movements, demanded an account of every minute. He said he would harm me if I left, that he would take the children, that I would never see them. I was scared. I believed him. The first official incident was recorded in 1993. Neighbors called the police. They heard screams, the sound of breaking dishes. A patrol car arrived. Grimilda opened the door. Her appearance spoke for itself. The officer asked, "Who did this?" Grimilda remained silent, looked at Castro. He stood behind her, calm, confident. Then she quietly said, I fell down the stairs myself." The officer didn't believe her, offered to take her to the hospital, to file a report. Grimilda refused, said everything was fine, just an accident. The patrol left. They recorded the call.
Wrote down her version, did not pursue it further. Grimilda files for divorce, simultaneously files for a restraining order, submits a statement to the police. In the statement, she describes years of harsh treatment, lists episodes, dates, witnesses. She says Castro threatened to take the children, take them to another country, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, somewhere she wouldn't find them. The court reviews the case, schedules hearings, summons both parties. Castro appears with a lawyer, denies everything, says Grimilda is exaggerating, that there were arguments but nothing serious, ordinary family conflicts. The judge issues a temporary restraining order. Castro must stay at least 100 meters away from Grimilda, not approach the house, not call. A month later, Castro violates the order. He comes to Grimilda's house, knocks on the door, demands to be let in, wants to see the children. Grimilda calls the police. A patrol car arrives. Castro is still there, arguing with Grimilda on the porch. The officer checks his documents, sees the restraining order, explains to Castro, "You are violating a court order. You can be arrested." Castro apologizes, says he didn't know, that he just wanted to see the children, that it wouldn't happen again. The officer issues a warning, records the incident. Castro leaves. No consequences, no arrest, no continuation of the case. Grimilda goes to court again. Castro continues to appear, call, threaten. The order isn't working. She asks for stronger measures, asks the police to react more firmly, says she fears for her life. The court schedules a new hearing. Castro, again with a lawyer, again denies everything, says Grimilda is trying to limit his contact with the children,
that it's revenge. The judge extends the restraining order for another year, warns Castro, if there's another violation, he will be arrested. But there was no arrest, because no more official violations were recorded. Castro became more cautious, acted covertly. Grimilda says, he called from strangers' numbers, watched from afar. I saw his car on the street, but I couldn't prove it. The police said, until he approaches, nothing can be done. Grimilda's last appeal. Castro appeared at the school where the children were studying, waited for them after classes, tried to take them without permission. School security didn't allow him. They called Grimilda. She took the children, filed a complaint. Police say they need witnesses, they need evidence. His word against yours. The case is closed. Again. 2 years later, Castro takes Michelle Knight, begins to build a system, the same control system he used with Grimilda, only now without limitations, without witnesses, without a chance to escape. After the case was revealed, experts studied his history. Dr. Catherine Reeder, a specialist in domestic matters, the pattern is obvious. Castro practiced control for years, on his wife, then he transferred it to other victims.
He refined his methods, took it to the extreme. The justice system saw the signals, restraining orders, complaints, threats of taking the children. Everything was documented. Everything was in the protocols. But no one reacted seriously enough. No one saw it as a harbinger of something larger. Grimilda says in an interview, I tried, many times. I told the police, I told the judges. No one listened. And now these women have paid for it with 10 years of their lives. Ariel Castro's first interrogation took place on May 7, 2013. Morning. The interrogation room at the Cleveland Police Department headquarters. Castro sits at the table, hands in handcuffs. His face is calm. Detectives Andrew Hayden and Barbara Johnson conduct the interrogation. They start the recording. They state the date, time, and attendees. The first question is simple. Do you understand what you are accused of? Castro nods. He says quietly, yes, I understand. The next question is, do you admit guilt? A pause. Castro looks at the table. Then he looks up. He answers, no, I am not guilty. Detective Hayden opens a folder. He takes out Amanda Berry's testimony. He reads it aloud. The description of the abduction. The description of the captivity. Years in confinement. Castro listens. His expression doesn't change. When the detective finishes, Castro shakes his head. That's not true. She's exaggerating. It wasn't like that at all. The detective asks, how exactly was it? Castro begins his version.
He says that Amanda came to him herself. He offered her a ride. She agreed. Then they came to his house. She stayed voluntarily. The detective interrupts. Voluntarily for 10 years? Castro replies, she could have left. I didn't hold her by force. The doors were open. The detective takes out photos from the house, the scenes of confinement, reinforced locks, boarded-up windows. Castro looks at the photos. He remains silent for a few seconds. Then he says, that was for security. The neighborhood is dangerous. I was afraid of burglars. The version was absurd, but he stuck to it, repeating it again and again. The detective moves on to Gina de Jesus. He reads her testimony. Abduction on the street. Threats. Years in confinement. Castro denies it again. He says that Gina also came herself, that he offered help, that she stayed of her own free will. The detective reminds him, Gina was a young girl. She was walking home from school. Castro shrugs. He says, I didn't know her age. She looked older. The interrogation lasts 4 hours. The detectives ask hundreds of questions. They present evidence, show photographs, read the testimonies of all 3 women. Castro doesn't change his version. He continues to deny. He invents explanations, each more absurd than the last. When asked about the confinement, he says it was a game, a role-playing game. They asked for them themselves. When asked about the boarded-up windows, renovation, he was going to replace the frames.
Didn't get to finish. When asked why the women didn't leave, they didn't want to. They were fine. I fed them, cared for them. Detective Johnson changes tactics. She asks about Jocelyn. Who is that? Castro is silent longer than usual. Then quietly, my daughter. The detective clarifies, daughter from whom? Castro doesn't answer immediately. He looks away. Then, from Amanda. The next question, how did it happen? Castro starts talking about the things he was compelled to do. He calls it a problem, a disease. He says he couldn't control it. The detective interrupts. It's not a problem. it's a crime. Castro shakes his head. He insists on his point of view. He says he had problems, that he needed help, that he wasn't a monster. The interrogation continues. Detectives ask about every day, about the control system, about the rules in the house, about the punishments. Castro answers evasively. He says there were rules, like in any house, that it was normal. When asked why the women couldn't go out, I was afraid for them. The neighborhood is dangerous. I was protecting them. When asked why they didn't call their families, they didn't want to. They themselves decided to cut ties. When asked about the harsh treatment, I didn't harm anyone. Maybe there were quarrels, ordinary conflicts. The detective takes out medical reports, the conditions of Michelle, Gina, and Amanda, all documented. Castro looks at the documents. He remains silent. Then he says, I don't remember.
Maybe they fell themselves. I don't know. Psychologist Michael Stone, who studied the interrogation transcripts, would later note, Castro exhibits classic pathological mendacity. He doesn't admit guilt even in the face of irrefutable evidence. He creates an alternative reality and believes in it. Another detail, Castro never showed remorse, never apologized, never admitted that he caused pain. When the detective asks, do you understand what you did to these women? Castro replies, I gave them a home, gave them food, cared for them. When asked about the victims' families, Castro says, that's not my problem. They decided to stay themselves. A complete lack of empathy, a complete inability to see the situation through the victim's eyes. The second interrogation was a day later. The same detectives, new questions, harsher. Castro stuck to the same line, denying, inventing, shifting the blame. He says the women were to blame themselves, that they could have left, that he didn't force them to stay. When asked about the confinement, they asked for them. When asked about the locks, for their safety. When asked about years of isolation, their choice. The detectives understood there would be no confession. Castro had built a defense, a version from which he would not deviate. It didn't matter that it was absurd. It didn't matter that no one would believe it. The interrogation ceased. There was enough evidence even without a confession. The testimonies of the three victims. Evidence from the house. Medical reports. The interrogation transcripts were handed over to the prosecutor. They became part of the case. Not as proof of guilt, that was obvious, but as evidence of his psychological profile, pathological mendacity, lack of remorse, inability to admit guilt, attempts to shift responsibility onto the victims. All of this would be used in court, not to prove the crime, but to show who committed this crime, what kind of person, what kind of monster. While Castro denied everything during the interrogations, forensic experts worked at the house on Seymour Avenue, methodically, room by room, every surface, every corner. The first floor looked ordinary. Living room, sofa, television, kitchen table, dishes in the sink. Nothing suspicious. An ordinary house for a single man. But the second floor told a different story. 3 bedrooms, each transformed into a prison cell. Doors reinforced with metal plates, industrial-grade locks, opening only from the outside. Windows boarded up with plywood, bolted to the frame, impossible to remove from the inside. Thick curtains on top. From the outside, everything looked normal. From the inside, complete darkness. In the first room, signs of confinement were found, bolted to the wall with anchor bolts, about 2 meters long. The scene spoke for itself. Traces of use were obvious. The metal was worn, scratches on the wall. Forensic experts photographed, measured, took samples. Hair was found, skin particles, DNA.
Later, it would be matched with the victims. Second room, similar signs, a different configuration. Here there were 2, bolted to opposite walls. The system allowed a person to be held in the center of the room, without access to the door or window. Third room, no such signs, but the lock on the door was massive, a bolt from the outside, an additional hook. Opening it from the inside was theoretically impossible. In each room, a mattress on the floor, dirty, old. Next to it, a plastic bucket, for waste. The smell was ingrained in the walls. Forensic experts descended into the basement. It was dark there, damp, smelled of mold. Dark stains on the floor, old, ingrained in the concrete. Samples were taken. Analysis would show they were of human origin, from 3 different people. In the corner of the basement, boxes were found. Old clothes, women's, various sizes. Items Castro bought for the captives. Cheap, worn, from thrift stores. Another box, children's clothes, small sizes, toys, a few books, for Jocelyn, all cheap, old. Forensic experts continued the search, checked every drawer, every cabinet, and they found the main thing. In one of the bedrooms, under a mattress, lay a notebook, an ordinary school notebook, 96 pages, handwritten, in small script, every page filled. The forensic expert carefully took the notebook, put on gloves, opened the first page. At the top, a date, August 2002. Below, the text, "First day here. I don't know where I am."
I'm scared. Michelle Knight's diary. 11 years of entries, almost every day. Short notes, sometimes a few lines, sometimes a page. The forensic expert flipped through, read selectively. Every entry was a testimony. Every page was evidence. He didn't bring food again. Second day. Hungry. Pounded on the door. Screamed. No one hears. Heard voices downstairs. Someone came to him. Wanted to scream. Was afraid. New one. He brought someone else. I hear crying through the wall. The entries continued for years. A chronology of captivity. Day by day. Month by month. Michelle described everything. When food was brought, when they were allowed out of the room, when there were punishments, when they were allowed to listen to the radio. She wrote about hope, about believing someone would find her, someone would save her. She wrote about despair, about days when she wanted to give up, when it seemed like it would never end. The last entry was dated May 2013, 2 days before liberation. I heard he forgot to close Amanda's door. Maybe this is a chance. The diary was handed over to the investigators. Every page was copied. Every entry became a piece of evidence. The prosecuting attorney studied the document. He understood. This wasn't just evidence. This was a chronicle of the crime, written by the victim, day by day, year by year. None of Castro's words during the interrogation could stand against this. He could talk about voluntary residence as much as he wanted.
The diary spoke the truth. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. Please find me. These lines were written in 2003, a year after the abduction. No voluntariness, only captivity, only fear, only hope for salvation. Prosecutor Timothy McGinty would later say, this diary became the strongest evidence, the living voice of the victim, her own words, 11 years of testimony. Nothing can refute it. The house search lasted 3 days. Hundreds of pieces of evidence were collected, thousands of photographs, dozens of physical evidence items. But the diary overshadowed everything, because it wasn't just proof of the crime itself. It was proof of the scale, the duration, the systematic nature. It was a story of survival, written by a person who believed one day someone would read it, someone would know the truth. On the third day of the search, forensic experts found another document in Castro's bedroom on the first floor, in a nightstand drawer, under old newspapers and magazines. A sheet of paper, handwritten, Castro's handwriting, date at the top, 2004, 9 years before his arrest. The investigator unfolded the sheet, read the first line, stopped, called colleagues. It was a note. Castro planned to end his life. He wrote an explanation, but he never carried out his plan. The text begins with a confession, direct, without evasion. I am a predator. I hunted women. I took them, kept them in my house for years. Next comes a list, names, dates of abductions.
Details that only he knew. Michelle Knight, August 2002. Amanda Berry, April 2003. Gina De Jesus, April 2004. Everything matched the victim's testimonies. Everything was accurate. No versions of voluntary residence, only the truth. Castro described how he planned the abductions. He scouted for victims, monitored their routes, chose the moments, acted calculatedly. I had seen Michelle several times before that day, knew where she walked, knew she was alone, that no one would search seriously. About Amanda, saw her at work, young, trusting, easy to talk to offer a ride. About Gina, my daughter's friend went to school with her. I knew the family, knew the route from school, knew she would pass by at a certain time. Cold calculation, no impulsivity, everything thought out, everything planned. Next, Castro moves on to explanations. He tries to find reasons to justify himself. He writes about his childhood, about how he himself experienced harsh treatment, that it changed him, broke something inside. I know I am sick. I have problems I cannot control. It started a long time ago, when I myself was young. But even here there is no remorse, only an explanation, only an attempt to shift responsibility, to the past, to circumstances, to anyone but himself. Castro writes about his compulsions. He calls it a disease. He says he tried to fight it, but he couldn't. I tried to stop after the first one, but it didn't work. Then there was the second, then the third.
Every time I told myself, this is the last one, but I didn't want to stop. Psychologist Michael Stone, who analyzed the note, commented, Castro demonstrates an understanding of the immorality of his actions, but at the same time, he absolves himself of responsibility, a classic pattern of narcissistic disorder. I am guilty, but not through my own fault. At the end of the note, Castro writes about his intention to take his own life. He says it's the only way out, that he cannot continue to live like this. But it didn't happen. The note was written in 2004. Castro lived for another 9 years, continued to hold the women captive, continued an ordinary life on the outside. Why he didn't carry out his plan is unknown. Maybe he got scared. Maybe he decided he could manage. Maybe he just changed his mind. The note was handed over to the prosecutor. This was Castro's only written confession. During interrogations, he denied everything. But here he confessed, completely, in detail. Lawyers studied the document, discussed whether it could be used in court, decided yes it could. It was written by his hand. These were his words. It was a confession. Castro's defense would try to challenge it. They would say it was written in a state of depression, that it shouldn't be taken seriously, that it wasn't a real confession. But handwriting analysis would confirm it was Castro's hand. The dates coincided with real events. The details matched the victims' testimonies.
This was not a fantasy. This was not an invention. This was the confession of a man who understood what he was doing and did it consciously. The note also showed something else. Castro thought about the consequences. He planned what would happen next. He wrote an explanation in case he was found. But even in the face of a possible end, he didn't admit the main thing. He didn't fully admit guilt. He didn't express regret for the victims. He didn't think about their suffering. All that concerned him was how to explain himself, how to justify, how to shift the blame to circumstances. This note became another piece of evidence, not only of the crime itself, but also of the psychological profile of the criminal, a man with empathy, without the capacity for remorse, capable of monstrous acts, yet only pitying himself. After the arrest, investigators reconstructed the picture, how exactly Castro committed the abductions, what methods he used, how he lured the victims. The testimonies of all 3 women provided a clear picture. Castro didn't grab people off the street. He didn't use brute force immediately. He acted through manipulation, through trust. The first was Michelle Knight, August 23, 2002. Michelle told investigators, I was going to a social service appointment. I was running late. The bus stop was far away. He pulled up in a pickup truck. I didn't know him, but he said he could give me a ride. Castro introduced himself, said he had seen her in the neighborhood.
That he knew where she was going, offered to help. He looked friendly. He smiled. Michelle hesitated. She didn't want to get into a stranger's car, but she was late. The meeting was important. She decided to risk it. She got in the car. Castro drove, first on the correct route. Then he turned off. He said he knew a shortcut. He drove her to his house, said he needed to go inside for a minute. He'd forgotten something. Asked her to wait inside. Michelle went in. The door closed. Castro changed. The smile disappeared. His voice became different. He grabbed her, dragged her upstairs, locked her in a room. It all took minutes. No one saw. No one heard. The street was empty. It was a weekday. Everyone was at work. The second was Amanda Berry, April 21, 2003. Amanda testified. I left work. I called my mom.
I said someone would give me a ride. I was walking to the bus stop. He pulled up. Castro knew Amanda, not personally, but had seen her before, knew where she worked, had seen her several times at Burger King. He planned ahead. He stopped nearby, rolled down the window, called her by name. Amanda stopped. She was surprised. How did he know her name? Castro said that a friend of his son knew her, that his son had asked him to deliver something, that he had a gift from her in the car. Amanda came closer, looked in the window. Castro pointed to the back seat. There was a package, wrapped in paper. He offered her to get in, to look at the gift.
He would give her a ride home at the same time. Amanda hesitated, but Castro looked normal, spoke calmly, mentioned acquaintances. She got in. Castro drove. The route was correct, for the first few minutes. Then he turned off. He said he needed to go home, to pick up something else for her. He drove her to the house on Seymour Avenue, asked her to come inside. Amanda entered. The door closed. The way back disappeared. The third was Gina De Jesus, April 2nd, 2004. Gina recounts, "I was walking home from school. My friend turned off to her house. I walked on alone. He stopped nearby." Castro knew Gina better than the others. His daughter Arlene went to school with her. They were friends. They visited each other's homes. Gina knew Castro by sight, knew he was Arlene's father. He rolled down the window, greeted her, asked how she was. Gina replied politely. She wasn't alarmed. This was her friend's father, a familiar adult. Castro said that Arlene was home, that she wanted to show Gina something, a new item. She had asked him to invite her. He offered her a ride. Gina thought about it, decided it was fine. She often went to Arlene's. Her parents knew. It was safe. She got in the car. Castro drove, not to his old house where Arlene lived with her mother, but to the new one on Seymour Avenue. Gina didn't know the address, didn't realize immediately. When they arrived, Castro said, "Wait inside the house. Arlene will be here soon." Gina went in, looked around. The house was empty.
Quiet. Arlene wasn't there. She tried to leave. The door was locked. Castro stood between her and the exit. His face changed. It became hard. It all happened quickly. 3 abductions, 3 different methods, but one principle, the use of trust. With Michelle, an offer of help from a stranger. With Amanda, mentioning mutual acquaintances. With Gina, using his daughter's friendship. Castro chose his victims carefully. Michelle, alone, without strong family support. Amanda, young, trusting. Gina, an acquaintance who wouldn't suspect a trick. He used his status, school bus driver, father, neighbor, an ordinary person who could be trusted. Investigators reconstructed the routes, checked surveillance cameras from those years, found confirmations. Castro's pickup truck at the right time, in the right places. Everything aligned. Victims' testimonies, camera recordings, witnesses who saw the pickup but didn't pay attention. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a system. Castro hunted, chose, planned, acted calculatedly, and his social status, his reputation as an ordinary person, were his main weapon. The evidence collected would be enough for 10 cases. The prosecution prepared the indictment for 2 months. The result, 977 counts of indictment. August 1, 2013, Cuyahoga County Courthouse. The hall is packed. Journalists, victims' relatives, onlookers, everyone wants to see. Castro is brought into the hall, orange prison uniform, handcuffs, guards on both sides. He sits at the defense table.
Looks straight ahead. His face is stone. The judge reads the charges. The list is long. Abduction, 3 counts. Unlawful restraint, multiple counts. Other articles, hundreds of formulations, each a separate crime. Prosecutor Timothy McGinty makes a statement. He says he is prepared to demand the maximum penalty. This case deserves the maximum punishment. Castro's defense offers a plea deal. Their client is ready to plead guilty to all counts in exchange for dropping the demand for the maximum penalty. Negotiations last a week. The prosecution consults with the victims, asks their opinion. All 3 agree. They don't want a long trial. They don't want to testify in court. They don't want to relive it again. On July 26th, Castro officially pleads guilty to all 977 counts. Each is read separately. It takes hours. Castro repeats, guilty, again and again. On August 1st, the sentencing hearing is scheduled. This is the last chance for the parties to speak. The prosecutor presents evidence, shows photographs from the house,
reads excerpts from Michelle's diary, describes the system Castro built. Then the victims are given the floor. If they wish, they can speak. Say something directly to Castro. Amanda and Gina decline. They don't want to be in the same room with him. They submit written statements. The judge reads them aloud. Michelle decides otherwise. She walks to the stand, stands a few meters from Castro, looks at him. She speaks directly, without notes.
The words come from her heart. 11 years. 11 years of my life you stole. I was young. I had plans. I had dreams. You took all of it. Her voice trembles, but she continues. You thought you broke me. You thought I wouldn't survive. But I am here. I am alive. I am stronger than you will ever be. Castro looks at the table. He doesn't look up. You will spend the rest of your life in a cage, like you kept us. Now you will know what that's like. And I hope, every day, you remember our faces. Michelle falls silent. A few seconds of silence. Then she returns to her seat. The hall is in complete silence. Even the journalists don't stir. The judge gives Castro the floor. One last chance to say something, to apologize, to explain. Castro stands. He speaks slowly, monotonously. I am sick. I have a problem. I didn't mean to cause harm, but I couldn't stop. I apologize. The words sound hollow, without emotion, without remorse. Mechanically, he adds, I am not a monster. I am just a sick man. The judge interrupts, says he has heard enough. Time for sentencing. Judge Michael Russo stands, reads the decision. Ariel Castro, you have been found guilty on 977 counts. The court sentences you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. A pause. Then he adds, plus 1,000 years of imprisonment. The sentence will be served consecutively. This guarantees that you will never be released. Castro doesn't react. He stands motionless. Guards take him by the arms.
Lead him out of the hall. The victim's relatives cry. Some from relief, some from pain. 10 years of waiting were over. Justice was served. Prosecutor McGinty gives a comment to journalists. This sentence means that Castro will spend every remaining day of his life behind bars. He deserved it, and even that is not enough for what he did. The sentence takes effect immediately. Castro is sent to a maximum security prison. Solitary confinement. 24-hour surveillance. No leniency. The case of Ariel Castro is officially closed. 3 women are free. The criminal is punished. But the story doesn't end there. The verdict was rendered. Castro was in prison. But for Cleveland, the case was not closed. The city had to decide what to do with the reminder. With the house on Seymour Avenue. The building stood empty. The police had finished their work. Evidence was collected, but the house remained. Local residents walked past, looked at the closed windows, remembered what had happened inside. The city council discussed options. Sell the house, turn it into a memorial, leave it as it was. The victim spoke unequivocally. This house must disappear. Nothing should remain. On August 7, 2013, the demolition began. Bulldozers arrived early in the morning. Hundreds of people gathered to watch. Neighbors, journalists, just curious onlookers. The first blow destroyed the porch, the very one where Amanda first walked free. The second blow, the wall. The third, the roof.
In a few hours, the house turned into a pile of rubble. By evening, nothing was left on the site, only an empty lot. The ground was filled in, grass was sown. Cleveland Mayor Frank Jackson commented, "We are erasing a physical reminder, but we will not forget the lessons this place taught us." While the house was being demolished, 3 women began new lives, a long, painful, but necessary rehabilitation process. Amanda returned to her family, to her father, to her sister. For the first few weeks, she just stayed home, afraid to go out, afraid of people, afraid of open spaces. Psychologists worked with her daily, taught her to trust again, to build relationships again, to live again.
Gina also returned to her parents. Her mother never left her side, afraid to let go, afraid it was a dream, that she would wake up and Gina would be gone again. Michelle chose a different path. She didn't return to her family. The relationships were complicated. Instead, she began to live independently, with the help of social services, slowly built independence. All three received financial compensation from the state of Ohio. The money helped, but it didn't heal. Scars remained, physical, psychological. September 3rd, 2013, a month after the sentencing, prison guards conducted their morning rounds, checked cells, reached Castro's cell. The consequences of what happened were clear. Guards called medics, tried to provide aid, unsuccessfully. The official conclusion, he was gone.
The investigation confirmed it. No signs of outside involvement. Some said he escaped punishment, avoided the years he was supposed to spend in a cage, got an easy way out. Others said this was his last confession of guilt, the only remorse he was capable of. Psychologist Michael Stone offered a third version. Castro could not exist without control. All his life he controlled others. In prison, he was controlled. It was unbearable. The final act of control was to choose his own end. After this event, the case was officially closed. The criminal no longer existed. The victims were free. Justice was served. But questions remained. Questions not for Castro, for society, for the system, for those who lived nearby. For 10 years, 3 women were within a few miles of their families, of police stations, of the people who were searching for them. For 10 years, they were so close and so far. Neighbors saw oddities, closed windows, lots of food, strange sounds. But no one connected the dots. No one looked deeper. Police visited the house twice, knocked on the door, spoke with Castro, left, did not go inside, did not check. One detective interrogated Castro in 2004. His name was on a list of suspects, but his reputation protected him. An ordinary bus driver, the father of the victim's friend, helping with the search, could not be involved. Sociologist Catherine Genovese studied the case.
Wrote an article about collective blindness, a phenomenon where society fails to notice a crime because it doesn't want to see it. People live next to each other, but they don't see each other. Don't ask uncomfortable questions. Respect boundaries. But sometimes respecting boundaries means ignoring a cry for help. The Castro case changed the police's approach to investigations. Now every complaint of harsh treatment in the home is investigated more thoroughly. Every strange call requires a full inspection. In Cleveland, a training program was created for residents, teaching them to recognize signs of abduction, to notice oddities, not to be afraid to report. 3 women continue their lives. Amanda wrote a book, told her story, helps other victims. Gina also became an activist, fights for the rights of the missing. Michelle chose privacy, lives quietly, recovers at her own pace. The story of the house on Seymour Avenue ended, but the lessons remained, about how easy it is to miss something monstrous, how simple it is to walk by, and how important it is to look more closely at the world around.